Generations of Marine Corps infantrymen have regarded these men with pride and as the epitome of heroism, aspiring to someday emulate the bravery and courage they exhibited in the mountains of Korea. Their war was never forgotten, quite the opposite, in fact. Their actions and experiences have been passed down through multiple generations of instructors and warriors. Without them, our understanding of the intricacies of cold weather training and mountain warfare would be sorely lacking. Surrounded on all sides and defying overwhelming odds, these men fought with unwavering determination, standing shoulder to shoulder with their brothers in arms for over 2 weeks. Their actions in that battle set the tone for the remainder of the war, significantly weakening the communist forces and securing a brighter future of the people of South Korea, a legacy that endures to this day. Gentlemen, it's an honor. I definitely was given a pamphlet by Johnny, The Retreat Hell. We're just attacking in a different direction. I just wanted to emphasize in the Marine
I haven't forgot a bit of it. I was up to Korea 3 weeks before anything happened really bad. I mean, at the end of that 3 weeks, I was up on the China border. And I started fighting at Busan. And for the ones that don't know, I think all of you probably do, Korea is like Florida. It's a peninsula with the Yellow Sea on one side and the Japanese Sea on the other side. And Busan is like Miami in the thing. It's right down on the last corner. And my ship pulled into there, and we got off at 3 o'clock in the morning. In 45 minutes, I was fighting. We could see the flash from the ship. That's all that was left when I landed at Korea. And we went from there to the Chinese border and never stopped going forward. The Marines don't have foxholes, and every time I read a book, it tells about us getting in foxholes and doing this and doing that. I was all over Korea fighting, and I was in the first wave at Incheon, and I never dug a foxhole. Nobody in my outfit ever dug a foxhole because we moved too much. And that movement keeps people from getting killed. And the Army was getting people killed by big numbers when we landed there. And they had foxholes all over Korea. But when you stay there all night, the enemy knows that you're where you're at and you can't get out, and they can hand grenade you and hit you with mortars and all that kind of thing. So the Marines, they go forward all the time. Keep going forward. You don't stop long enough to dig a foxhole. So I'll tell you about one. I've got 100 stories where I come that close to getting killed. But here I am, alive at 93. But when we took Chosin, we just ran right through it. But that's where I saw the first killings. When I got off of that ship, we got on trucks that took us about half a mile. We got out of the trucks and started walking, and Marines walked on these dirt roads. We walked 15 feet apart on each side. So if a big shell hits, it only kills one guy. And going up that road at Chosin, it was the only one left. Army guys was running down the middle of that road. And they're saying, "You're all going to get killed. There's tanks up there." And every time one said that by me, I said, "Where they at? We're hunting tanks." And the guys would say, "Right on that hill up there, they kill everybody." Well, I really felt sorry for these guys, but the Army boys didn't have a gun that would touch a tank. They couldn't knock out a tank. And Russia give the North Koreans 100 T-34 tanks. And them tanks were lined up all across Korea, and they were moving south, and all the Army could do was run. And there was one general there that I remember, General Dean. They took him and all his aides prisoners. The guys run off, and they got the general. And I saw him when they exchanged prisoners. I watched it all day on TV, and I was looking for General Dean, Army general, and I saw him getting out of a truck, and I was kind of relieved that he got out of there. But anyway, I got 100 stories, and I've only got 20 minutes time, so I'm going to have to tell you the ones I picked out. All the rest of them is just as bad, but at one point, I had a Marine brother that stayed. He was in the same barracks with me, and his name wasn't called to get on this ship, the Henrico we had to get on. There was 3 ships went over, and each one of them had a battalion. And we lined up out in front of the building, and my buddy waved at me and said, "I'll take care of the girls. Go ahead and take over Korea." So he didn't get called, and I got on a ship, and I went, and I fought for about 2 weeks, and we went through Chosin and was on the road, and we had fought, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 days without stopping. And all of a sudden, somebody yelled at me and said, "Johnny." And I looked around. It was my buddy. He was on the road, and they were going to relieve us for 2 days. And I said, "Who's taking care of the girls?" He went on up the road, and I was laying on the side of the road waiting for these guys to get through. And about 15 minutes later, the guys knew that he was my buddy, and they sent the word back to me that he got shot with a burp gun, hit 4 times, and they hauled him away in an ambulance. And I thought, well, he's a goner, you know, if he got hit 4 times, he's probably dead. So I just kept going on, and when I got out of the Marine Corps, I moved to Dayton, Ohio, and got a job in a factory like everybody in Kentucky does. And one day I was going to work. This was 4 years later. I think it was. Anyway, I was driving down a 2-lane road, and way over here on the sidewalk, I saw that guy walking up the sidewalk. Man, I just slammed on the brakes and yelled at him, "Get over here to my car." And he got through the traffic and got over to my car, and I put him in the seat and turned around and went back to my house. I didn't go to work that day. Had a lot to talk about. And that was an exciting time. And I live on a golf course. And I've set up some things for Marine Corps League, to make money for the Marine Corps League. Set up tournaments like Saturday and everything, and I had a real good buddy that owned the bar, and I never have been a drinker. I can't stand to taste beer, and I can't stand to smell whiskey. So I don't drink. But this guy come up on a golf cart that he rented. I had a golf cart of my own living there, and he pulled up on it, and I asked him where he'd come from. I knew he was a stranger. And he told me he'd come from Ohio down to that tournament. And this was for the Marine Corps League, and there was a lot of Marines helping me. And I said, "What's your name?" He said, "Bowling." I said, "I had a good buddy in the Marine Corps. His name was Bowling." And he said, "What was his first name?" I said, "Leon." He said, "That's my dad." I almost fell on the blacktop. I said, "What happened to him?" He said, "Well, straight up Highway 75, a big interstate, there's a place just before you get to Cincinnati, and it's got a big sign on the tank that says the name and then you all behind it." And he said that's where he lives now. So I was going to go up and see him. He died before I got up there. So anyway, things like that happen in war. But I'll tell you another thing. About 2 weeks after we were there, I was in a heavy weapons platoon. They have flamethrowers, rockets, mortars, and machine guns. And we had a major in charge, Major Russell. But we was going up this dirt road, and some men there was a few trees on the right, and I was on the left side of the road, and they started firing, the enemy started firing out of that woods, and the lieutenant called the aircraft carrier that was 5 minutes away for our airplane, and we needed some help on that little bunch of trees. Told them where it was at. Lieutenant Brown called them, and in 5 minutes, the airplanes come and killed everybody in that woods. We got up and went on up. The next day, I was talking. We stayed about 30 or 40 yards behind the guys that right in the front. And if they seen anything tough, like a machine gun or a tank or anything like that, they would yell at us, and we had to get it. So this day, I was talking to these other two guys. One of them was pure Indian, and a big shell come over my head, just barely missed my head and hit right there, and it didn't go off. It was a shell that long and that big around. It was a 155. For some of you military, you know what a 155 is. That's the biggest military right now, the biggest gun they got for artillery. That thing hit closer than them chairs. It come right over my head and hit there and didn't go off. And I told these two guys, I said, "That's a 155, that's an American shell." And I said, some of these guys had run off and left the gun and the ammunition. Now the enemy's firing them at us. And when I said that, 2 more hit, one on each side of that one that was there. I said, we got to get out of here because they got it sighted in, and they'll just keep shooting here. They might shoot 10 more shells, and if one of them goes off, all of them will go off. So we ran about 100 yards, and we stopped there. And in a few minutes, they started yelling up on the hill, tanks, tanks. Well, we was on dirt road, and them dirt roads followed the mountain around. So the lieutenant jumped in it and said, everybody get on it, Ken. He had a Jeep and a trailer. The trailer was for hauling flamethrower things. Them big tanks is too much to go with all the time, so they haul them in a trailer when they need them, and then they'll grab them. Well, 4 guys got in the trailer, and 3 guys got in the Jeep. I got in the Jeep because I was standing right by it when they started hauling. I jumped in the Jeep, but the Jeep took off. Lieutenant Brown was driving it, and it went way around in a deep hill, and then started going uphill. It'd go around big curves where there's humps. And up at the top of that road, there was a real sharp curve. Just went right around quick like that and went back down the other side. Well, we was driving all up, and we was all getting ready to fight these 3 tanks coming. And everybody was loaded and all ready to fire. And we got up to the top, went around that little curve, and we got halfway. The first bank was coming around that curve halfway, and we come within 10 feet of bumping it. We was about 10 feet from it when the tank stopped and we stopped. And thank goodness had his gun pointed way up there on the hill at them guys that was shooting everything up there. And we was down here. Well, the guys that were all loaded up, just jumped off of that Jeep and bang, and that tank was gone. We had our guns would go right through a tank. And the Army never had nothing that would stop one. And anyway, everybody shot but me. I was looking at the second one coming right behind that first one. And he had a gun pointed up this way, and it started coming down like that. And if he'd have got around to here, he would have killed all of us with that big gun. But I thought, that thing's coming around. And I thought this real fast. But if you hit that turret, that's where the gun comes out of, the big heavy part on top of the tank. If you hit where it's turning, it's going to stop because it's going to knock that out right now. So that second one started coming along, and it got like from here to halfway through the crowd. I was that close, and I fired right at that gap or where it turns, and it made a big hole, and that gun went right up like that, and it couldn't be moved more. Couldn't hurt nobody. And the tank stopped right there, and the guy crawled out, got on the front of the tank, and the lieutenant had two 45s. And a 45 will throw your arm back over your head. So he had one in each hand. They'll do that with 2 hands. And he was going like this, and his arms were going clear back behind his head. And he's shooting at them guys coming out of the tank. One guy come out the front, and he killed that guy. And 2 more started out at a hole that I made, about that wide. And 2 guys started coming out of there, and they just got halfway up to their belt. That was it. He killed both of them. So he got all 3 of them with them 45s. And the third one was coming along behind, just like there wasn't nothing happened. He's going about 5 miles an hour, real easy, wasn't shooting nothing. Well, man, about 4 of us shot that thing before he got 10 feet and just blowed it all to pieces. And
That's awesome.
that
Save a little bit.
that wasn't the funny part. The funny part was somebody got pictures of them tanks there where it knocked them out, and that guy laying on the front, and they put it in the paper that all military gets. And about 2 days later, plane went over and dropped papers to us, had a big picture of them tanks, and underneath it's telling how the Air Force knocked them out. I'm telling you about some peed Marines they were. And I was too.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Awesome. That's it. Yep. Thank you very much. Yeah. Oop, there you go. Yeah. Oh, hey. You want to come back, sit down? You can come back, sit down. Yeah. Do you want me to go one more question, or? Okay. Okay. All right, Pat. One of the questions that I have for you is, when you're fighting, and like I said, we have here, you're surviving out of the 20 or out of 250 Marines. You're one of the survivors of or 20. What was kind of the most surreal moment, or what motivated you guys to keep fighting in that cold weather?
I'd like to start at the beginning and kind of lead up to that, if it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you can stay right there. We have her.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
Good morning. I was surprised to walk in here and see the picture wall of the famous Fox Company. Second guy up there turned out to be a personal friend of mine after Korea. And he died about a year ago, but it's kind of, I thought it was kind of ironic to see that. If you were in the Chosin Reservoir in Korea, winter of 1950 and 51, you had two enemies to fight. One, of course, was the Chinese communists, who we expected. The other enemy was the cold weather. It was unbelievable. I'm from Minnesota, so I know about winter, but the winter we had in Korea was unimaginable. It would 15 to 25 degrees below zero often, and I understand it would crest up into the low 30s. It was just unbearable. And then on top of that, we had these winds coming down from Manchuria. That just kind of blended in with the cold weather, and it was very unpleasant. Minnesota, you're in the cold weather and you can go in and get warm somewhere or change or whatever. In Korea, we were out in the weather 24 hours a day, and there was no place to hide. There's no place to go to get warm. Excuse me. The first introduction I got to the Chinese was the night of the 27th, I believe. We were we were at 100% watch, but we didn't expect what happened. All of a sudden, we heard bugles blowing and whistles blowing, and all kinds of clatter and noise. It was kind of startling. But that was my first introductions to the Chinese. And before the noise, for some strange reason, there was a strong smell of garlic. I don't know if they ate a lot of garlic or what, but shortly after that smell came into us, that all hell broke loose. There were so many of them that you couldn't shoot fast enough. You'd have to keep backing up to get a new target. And when they came in, the first thing they did was look for anybody that was in a sleeping bag. They'd bayonet them, We lost 2 people that way. So to compound the problem of the cold weather, we had sleeping bags that we couldn't use. You just wouldn't dare. Sometimes during the day we'd wrap them around our feet or something, but you had to be prepared to be mobile at any time. The weather, it's kind of hard to describe this, but everything was so frozen that we had food, if you wanted like fruit cocktail, you'd have to put it inside your shirt and wear it for 8 hours or so till it got warm enough that you could eat it. And all of our rations were frozen. We didn't have any water. We'd take a canteen cup and fill it with snow over and over and keep melting it till we had water. But an interesting sidelight to that, if you took that canteen full of boiling water and threw it up in the air, it would be ice before it hit the ground. Put that in relationship to trying to go to the bathroom outside. It's a real problem. We on this particular hill, we took it from the Chinese, and once we got up and got our position and so on, they were out of there. Well, then we were shooting those that were there, and we were running short of ammunition, so we had ammo carriers went down to get ammo, and they got ambushed on the way up, so we didn't get the ammo. But 20 of the guys got the word that they should get out of there, and they went down the hill to the bottom, and there were 6 of us left up there. We had a machine gunner and 5 riflemen, and we didn't know that we were alone, but we kept firing and firing, and the Chinese were pretty quiet then. They knew that when we ran out of ammunition, it was open harvest for them, because they knew that it interrupted the ammo carriers. And we kept firing until we did run out of ammo, and then the 5 of us, or 5 in the machine gunner, worked our way down the hill. On the way down, we heard this crying and moaning, and it turned out to be our gunny sergeant that we picked up and took him with us. And he was in such bad shape that he didn't make it. But the 6 of us got back down and united with the 18 or 20 that were already down there. There wasn't enough to make item company anymore. They took the remnants of us and blended us in with George and Howe Company. Then the Chinese, of course, took our positions on top of the hill that we'd fought so hard to get. And one of the other companies had to go back up again the next day and regroup and take the hill back again. The hill was very strategic. There were different areas like this hill and Fox Hill that I referred to, and several others were. It was crucial. There was only one road up there, and it was very important to keep that open. The Chinese, of course, had lured us up into the reservoir, and once we got up there, then they showed up. They were experts at camouflaging themselves. They would only move at night. During the day, you didn't know they were there. And we come to find out there were 123,000 of them and 13,000 something of us. So when they popped up, we knew we had our hands full. We were in real trouble. But they would overrun us, and we'd shoot. If they'd shoot up or we'd shoot up a incendiary grenade up in the sky, and it would light up everything, and it looked like a shooting gallery. I mean, they were just all over. And like I say, we couldn't shoot fast enough, and we'd fight. They'd usually come and get us, or try to get us at about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And they came in with all this noise, as I said. And we would fight until probably 6 o'clock or when it started getting light. And then they would just disappear into the woodwork. And obviously they were, you know, hiding and waiting for the next night. Getting back to the weather a little bit, it's kind of grotesque, but if you didn't keep walking or keep moving, you'd freeze to death. That cold weather would make you kind of lethargic and sleepy. So many mornings we'd get up, or go down, I should say, to find many people, mostly Chinese, some of ours, frozen in a position that they stopped in. Some were had their arms, some of them didn't. Oftentimes, I think they probably fell asleep. But it was really a strange sight to see these, they looked like mannequins, kind of. Well, when it came time to get out of the reservoir, oh, excuse me, I lost my chain of thought. They very cleverly let us go all the way up before they kind of closed the trap. And at the same time, when they closed the trap, they blew up the only bridge to get out. And it was a one-way, just one road went up there. So when they blew up the bridge and we were there, they had us, they thought. We just kept fighting and doing the things we were supposed to do. And I wanted to bring out the team effort. The Air Force did their job. They kept shooting at the Chinese and keeping their heads down. So actually what it did is it slowed the flow of them coming to us. If it hadn't been for them and for the battleship Missouri firing lobs and so all the other parts that go together to have an organized unit. We started fighting our way down and trying to keep the high ground. We lost an awful lot of people. A lot of good friends that were left there.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having you guys on, and it's an honor to be here. If you guys want to check out a book called Give Me Tomorrow, it's a really good reference. We have to move on, so we won't be able to do questions. It's a great book to reference the Battle of the Chosin and the Korean War as well. So thank you for coming on and telling your story.